favorite nerdy girl, is back. And we are back with another review for Cobra Kai Season 3 on Netflix. Also, make sure to check me out on Sofritoforyoursoul.com. I am their new TV and movie commentator. Stay tuned, yo. I will be back with my recap. Alright, before we start, you gotta give me props, right? For doing the Johnny Lawrence realness tee here, right? Got my little headband, Cobra Kai colors. Anyway, let's get into this review real quick. I will admit, yes, I was one of the few that was not up on this series. I was sleeping on this series. Yes, I remember seeing like tidbits and people making comments and reviews on Facebook. I want to say it's very popular. This series is very popular on Facebook. So I was not aware. And once it made its transition to Netflix, I was like, okay, let's see what this is about. I watched and binge watched those first 2 seasons and I fell in love. Applause, applause. I want to say this is how you do a revamp, if you can even classify this a revamp. Because honestly, I think the storytellers for this, the creators of the show, were very cautious that it has such a loyal following. Let's just be honest. The franchise for Karate Kid has a very loyal following from like Gen X and perhaps before, who were fans of this particular films, and it stayed true to the story. Now, I want to say, since the development of like Wicked and a number of the films that kind of fall in the same kind of category, Creed, it stays true to the story, but it gives you another perspective. You know, I want to say the 80s, they were phenomenal in their storytelling, and a lot of those stories became part of our childhood. You know, that's why they're so protected by a lot of us. But I want to say they were still very kind of, you know, black and white. You wanted to cheer for the good guy, good versus evil. You didn't want to go for the bad guy. And I gotta say, you know, nobody was interested in Johnny's character. He was awful. You know, the way he would always, you know, bully poor Daniel in the story. But no shade, not for nothing. When I go back, I'm like, he was pretty hot. Like, even though he's a bad guy, he was hot. He was a hot tea, you know. But anyway, that's beside the point. With this introduction of this series, we see his perspective. In fact, we get more meat and potatoes, more background into who he was, the foundation of who he was, why he the way he was, and he ultimately became. And then, you know, we also we pick up where life, you know, has left them, you know, all these years later, you know, 30 plus odd years later, you know, now we see what they became. Unfortunately, Johnny's character, played by William Zabaka, still hot. Oh my god, the man is so attractive. Anyway, let me stop. He's one of these folks that unfortunately peaks at high school. Now, I don't know if it was because of his own doing, you know, wanted to party, that his lifestyle was just you know, pretty much privileged, and just wanted to party. Also, he loses his mom, so I think that also contributes to why he's led his life the way he has. Not the most responsible parent in the world. His finances is in the toilet. Yeah, so his character eventually becomes what maybe you would think, you know, that's how Daniel started. That was Daniel's humble beginnings, played by Ralph Macchio. You know, he was just, you know, came from humble beginnings, living with his mom in one of these like little small complexes, and, you know, wasn't of wealth. But it's funny and interesting how life will throw you wrenches, and then before you know it, you yourself can be in that position. So he's not in the best financial, career wise, personal wise. He has a child that he's been estranged from for years. The child is borderline delinquent at this point. His mom also is addicted to drugs. There's a number of pitfalls here. I mean, you feel for the guy. And see, this is the interesting part, because this guy that we've loathed for 30 plus years, now we start to see and feel, and we start to see his perspective, like, oh dang, man, I kind of feel bad. And then we see Ralph's character, Daniel, who, went on to grow confidence and, became the guy that he maybe had always ambitioned to be. Parts of it, Johnny. He became super wealthy. Is the best known, most wealthiest known used car salesman or salesman. Has a number of auto lots in this particular part of California where Johnny lives, and has to constantly be seen bombarded with his billboards and commercials, and having it always kind of like, thrown in his face that he's doing way better than him. Which is kind of like, let's be honest, people who have been picked on, you know what that feels like, and you're like, I'm always gonna get back at that, So I think it feeds into that fantasy world too. Very smart of the creators to do that. It's like, what wouldn't I do to like shove it in that kid's face to know, like, I'm doing better than you now, ha? How's that for life's apples, right? But nonetheless, but in the way we're kind of introduced to Daniel, he's kind of a little semi-arrogant. Maybe success has kind of gone to his head, and he kind of comes off as a jerk, like in at least the first season. With time, we get to see that he's still a good guy. He's a concerned parent, and I want to say their rivalry bleeds into this, like, now this new generation of kids that are very much into the whole karate thing. His daughter gets involved, and even Johnny's son also gets involved, because now they both have their own separate dojos, alive and well. Johnny opens his Cobra Kai, which was never meant to be reopened again, but somehow he finagles that. Little, starting off small, and then it eventually branches off into what it becomes, and then they go into the tournament. The tournament, for some reason, it's always the be all and end all. And I want to say that, it kind of builds Johnny's character up in the sense that he starts to find purpose in this. At first, I think initially he just wanted to get back at Ralph's character, and then also because he keeps getting fired from these jobs, but he's like, this is what I'm good at, so might as well just kind of make a living off of this. So he eventually becomes successful. We're introduced to, I want to say this is very important, to a multi-ethnic cast. We have Latinos, we have African Americans, we have, the whole spectrum is covered, I want to say. And that was a really good, spin to this, because, again, I don't really remember it being so diverse aside from Karate Kid 2, when Daniel's character goes to Tokyo, and Mr. Miyagi, and we're introduced to, I think her name was Kimoko. I can't pronounce her name. Kumiko is the character that he meets in Japan, and Chosen too, which is so funny, because also for season 3, this is how we kind of segue in the whole, like, tradition of how we went from Karate Kid 1 to now Karate Kid 2. Now I think that we're transitioning as well. We're bringing back all these favorites. So for season 3, a lot has happened between the first 2 seasons. A lot of their students have been going rogue on their own, doing their whole karate thing. Johnny's most prized pupil, Miguel, is hurt badly, and unfortunately is hurt by his own son, Robbie. Robbie goes on the run because he knew he was going to see some kind of consequences for that. He pushed poor Miguel over a rail and he breaks his back. He falls into a coma. The whole karate stigma now starts growing because of the two dojos, and uh, Danny starts losing business. Not a lot of people are investing in his auto business. A lot of people who have paid for sponsorship are pulling out. So he feels the need. He's like, hey, well, I still have a lot of contacts in Japan. Maybe let me just go there. And then going there again, we're introduced to his old flames and his old rivals, which Chosen, which was the Johnny of that sequel. But it's so funny because it also kind of tells you also sometimes how people with years and maturity can bury the hatchet. So although Chosen was like almost gonna kill Danny's character in Karate Kid 2, you see that they've evolved and changed, and they're mature in age, and they've put that behind them, and it introduces Daniel's character to Mr. Miyagi that he wasn't aware of, and of certain techniques that he wasn't aware of. So I want to say also that they take, I think, from other instances of pop culture and infuse it in this series. Hints of like Tarantino and all the favorite things that we've all liked in pop culture. They kind of push them in there too. So I want to say that so yes, he's able to salvage his business and coming back, and then we're also hit with a little bit of blast from the past with their former flame. So both Johnny and Danny's former flame of Allie, played by Elizabeth Shue. Mind you, I loved her. I loved her in the 80s. I loved all of her 80s films. She still looks fabulous to this day. And you can see a little bit of twinge of jealousy, even though they've either patched things up or they don't, or they hate each other, they've fought each other all in all different types of scenes, but that twinge of jealousy, that whole rage was like building up again. Like, wait a minute. And though Danny's character is happily married, I think anybody would feel that way. They'd be like, well, wait a minute, why is my ex here and why isn't my ex talking to her ex? Like, that would hurt anybody. So, but somehow it's able to kind of bring them all together. And though there's an instance where maybe Johnny may get back with Allie, because there was a moment where it looked like they were going to kiss, Allie finds out that that Johnny is seeing somebody else. And though he has been forthcoming that he hasn't had a great, brilliant life and that he hasn't been as successful, she's become a doctor and she has a family, but she's in the middle of a divorce. That whatever that they were going to have would have been just like a rebound. So she accepts that and lets him, like, you should get back to your girlfriend. You don't want to mess that up. So he's able to, like, he's like, okay, so yes, because he's dating Miguel's mom. So, because they live in the same complex. And he goes back and he's like, yes, this is the love of my life. I'm going to be happy with this person. I'm just going to try to do my best. And when he gets back, Miguel, who now has gotten out of the coma and he was kind of slowly rehabilitating, happens to get into this another damn fight with both dojos going at it. Cobra Kai is like on a new level of crazy because Kreese, that horrible character, he's back too, and he has dominated the Cobra Kai, phenomenon. Recruited more kids that are just insane and are beating up other kids, and they beat up Miguel. So now both Danny and Johnny go and they're going to put an end to it, send Kreese packing, but Johnny is hit with another wrench and realizes that his biological son Robbie, remember, he's the one that pushed Miguel over the rail, has now joined forces with Kreese. And it's so heartbreaking, that scene, because it's like, here's my son, what do I do? He actually even wants to fight him. That's how badly Kreese has like poisoned him, Trump like, and it's just between being caught between a rock and a hard place, because you're a parent, but at the same time that this child has done wrong and has done wrong against another child. And so But they try to put an end to it. They join forces, Danny and Johnny, but it's to no avail. He's like, hey, this is a free country. I didn't force your kid to join my dojo, but it is what it is. If you really want me to leave, let's do a tournament. So that leads and bleeds into possible season 4. And there's already talk that they might bring other ex-villains from from the Karate Kid franchise. I believe a character that so yeah, there's big talk in the rumor mill, especially like what's gonna happen next. Those fans, and there's talk that maybe Terry Silver from the Karate Kid 3, it might be introduced in this season 4, this impending season 4. Why? Because at the end of season 3, we see Kreese making a call. We also learn about his background in the army and how he eventually evolved into this evil character. He wasn't always such a bad guy, but when he's in the army, especially in Vietnam, he saves the life of one particular character, which we suspect is Terry Silver. And Terry Silver already had a hand at Danny, but we'll see how now they'll probably interject him for season 4, and how now poor Johnny's kid, Robbie, might be also even more influenced, but we'll see. It has been a blast from the past, from start to finish. I have enjoyed this series, even down to the music. It's very, it's very metal, hair metal. If you were a fan of like Poison, Motley Crue, it's very 80s infused. White Snake. Oh my god, I love White Snake. So you get nostalgia, but you're also introduced to the new pulse, the new generation of kids. So it's multi-ethnic cast. I believe like I only have faith in this show that they will introduce more characters of different ethnicities. A lot of people were also some people, I want to say certain people in the Asian community were like, well, where are the Asians? And there are Asians in the show, but yes, they are playing villains. But who's to say, in season 4 that there won't be an introduction of more Asian characters and in a positive light. So I've really enjoyed it. I really think that this is how you rework something that is so faithful and so guarded by fans, and you just make it work, man. But it's fresh, but still very much true to the OG of Karate Kid. So I'm looking forward to season 4. I really enjoyed it. I give it all the nerdy girl glasses, popcorn and all. And I recommend y'all watch it, 30 minutes a piece. Super fun. You can watch over a weekend. And I'm looking forward to doing a few more reviews. I believe my next review will be for Bridgerton, which also got a second season. So I'm looking forward to that. And stay tuned for more, y'all. Let's rock out. Till next time, y'all. This is Nerdy Girl.